My name is Sean Rodriguez. This is my final video project for the Behavioral Health Science 150 course at Mason Community College. So this was a pretty interesting class. This was a pretty interesting class. There was, I thought there was a pretty good amount of good, interesting information. I thought it was relevant, especially because my main line of work is as an EMT or emergency medical technician. So I tend to encounter some patients who have behavioral health disorders, and it sometimes comes into play in what kind of treatment I can provide. So I thought it kind of hooked me into, that's kind of why I chose the class. I thought it would be interesting and applicable to what I was going to do as a career. Speaking of career, I'm involving myself heavily with Phoenix Fire Department right now because being a firefighter with Phoenix is the goal. So, what I want to do if I'm blessed enough to be given a position in Phoenix Fire is to just have the confidence and the knowledge to back up my actions as while I'm in the field. So, what is behavioral health? So, behavioral health is the study of emotions and behaviors, biology relating to a person's mental well being and a person's ability to function. The most important one of those 3 points that stood out to me was a person's ability to function, because we kind of got to start thinking what can affect a person's ability to function and in what ways. So, the first big thing that we kind of studied was mood disorders. And mood disorders are characterized by severe disturbances in mood and emotions, either extreme highs or extreme lows. Extreme lows, obviously, being depression and depressive disorders that we may or may not be familiar with. And on the other end, on the high end, we have mania and high elation, basically. So there are several subtypes. Back to depression. There are several subtypes of depression. Not going to get too much into it, but it also does include the bipolar disorder, because though bipolar is kind of its own thing, it does have depressive episodes in it because, that's what makes it bipolar, is bipolar depression. Um, so, but back to bipolar disorder. Like I was saying, there are depressive episodes and there are what's called mania. It's like those elations and, like I said before, mania episodes. And if they're less severe mania, then they're called hypomania episodes. So those can vary in patient to patient. And, anyway, something I found interesting was the research going into high stress susceptibility being a genetic trait and that can increase the risk of depression in kids. I thought that was interesting, and one of the modules that we covered in class for early on in the semester for mood disorders. I thought that was very interesting that it could be a genetic trait instead of just based on adverse childhood events, basically. Anyways, I don't want to get off topic. So the next big thing that I found interesting was anxiety disorders. And as we know, anxiety disorders and depression disorders have become a very hot topic in modern culture. It's talked about a lot, and it's pretty much everybody has one or the other at some point in their life. So, common misconception: anxiety is not equivalent to fear. It's fairly similar. They're in the same ballpark, but they have their own place. So fear is basically an instant reaction to an imminent danger or threat, while anxiety is an avoidance, basically, of a potential threat. Um, so they're actually fairly distinct. Anxiety is a natural occurrence. It's a completely normal thing, but it can often be blown out of proportion, um, either by it being just too amped up or for too long an extended period of time, basically. So, and once we start to see symptoms like that, then it can be identified as a potential anxiety disorder. Something I found surprising but not surprising at the same time is that 25 to 30% of the U.S. population uh, will test positive for at least one anxiety disorder in their life, which is a pretty crazy statistic. Like, I don't know. I don't think it should be that high. But yeah, it's also the most frequent and highly comorbid behavioral health disorder um, in the books, basically. So comorbid meaning it not coincides, but it appears next to other behavioral health disorders in the same patient more often than any other like big category. So another big thing we covered was phobias. I thought that was somewhat interesting, especially agoraphobia, which in my mind I thought seemed like a panic disorder and anxiety and a specific phobia all together. I just thought that was interesting to piece together in my head, I suppose. And we also covered psychotic disorders, most notably schizophrenia. I feel like a lot of people don't fully understand schizophrenia and the symptoms and causes that it has, but that's a big topic that we did cover. So I like the idea that we're covering that early in like a behavioral health science career, or in like a degree, like an early intro level class. And big hitters for me in my own personal life especially were also substance abuse disorders and trauma and stressor related disorders, because I have seen them both within my own family. God willing, I don't have to experience those firsthand myself. But substance abuse, I've seen it in a number of my friends. Obviously, we see it to an extent in people who vape, in my opinion, because it's just a dependence, basically. I don't know if it's to the point where it's a disorder, but yeah, anyway. I have seen substance abuse in a number of my friends through hard narcotics and through less hard drugs from my brother, who is a retired Marine, and he fought in the insurgency back in the day. So needless to say, he also has PTSD or a trauma-related disorder. So going through these big things these disorders was pretty personal to me, because I've seen it before. So, but yeah, those were the biggest things that I felt I learned in this final project, or in this class. And like I said, I am currently a licensed EMT per National Registry of Emergency Medical Technicians. I have a job as an EMT, and so I get to see patients all the time. I have dealt with panic disorders and anxiety disorders before, and just learning about the medications that they have and how to best treat those people. I think it's very, very important, especially with how prevalent anxiety disorders, notably, are within our society today. And so I was happy to take this class and boost my confidence and increase my knowledge going into the emergency medical field. Thank you.